Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the Left of Str8 Show Interviews, the premier podcast that shares the stories of our amazing LGBTQ community and, of course, fantastic straight allies, all from entertainment, foodies, books, music, and advocacy. I'm your host, as always, Scott Fullerton, and let's start talking. Welcome back, friends. Today's episode of the Left of Str8 Show Interviews, where I'm going to dive into the world of cinema and chat with co-stars Nicolette Norgaard and Tim Hoffman, who are joining me in studio today. This dynamic duo are not only co-starring in their eagerly anticipated indie pop musical, The Brink of, directed by Patrick Meany, they also play musical hats by being part of the producing team and writing and performing the original songs themselves. The film explores the life and challenges of a rising indie pop duo, Lena and James, portrayed by my two guests, as they navigate the tumultuous waters of the music industry and personal change. It's a story that time hops between the present day's upcoming interview and performance to the backstory of how it all began. I'm excited to talk to these two talented stars, but first, take a look. There we go.
Close my eyes to see.
You never told me you could sing.
I cannot sing in front of other people.
It's not other people, it's just me. I want to give this band thing a real go.
I can't throw away everything that I've worked for.
I know, it's stupid. It's probably crazy.
Fans haven't just fallen in love with the band's songs, they've fallen in love with the band.
10,000 likes already.
Maybe I'll bring them on tour this summer.
Oh my god, it's real!
Just wanna feel.
My daughter's going to live in a van with you.
Do you have any idea what we sacrificed to get you into Berkeley?
I'm not asking for permission.
You drop out now, you're not going back.
I'm ready to dive in. No distractions. Oh my god! She's gorgeous. Julia's very lucky. Maybe my mom was right. Maybe this was stupid.
Are you crazy? You're getting the chance to create something special. You're a rock star.
It's your song, it's your lyrics. What else do you want me to do?
I can't spend every night on stage in love with you and then pretend that we're nothing the rest of the time. There's clearly something going
There's
on.
nothing between us.
I don't want to be here.
Indie pop duo The Brink of disappeared, and no one knows why.
You're asking her to jump off a cliff. But you're the only one with a parachute.
Well, Nicolette and Tim, welcome to the Left of Str8 Show Podcast. How are you guys today?
Hi. Good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, doing well. Thanks so much for having us.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm so excited to have you. Thanks again for a little sneak of the film. Amazing film. You guys just writing and producing the whole song. We got to talk about that in a bit, but wow. Just a little bit to take on there for a film, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I always like to start with a little background. Nicolette, let's start with you. Tell me a little about where you grew up and what got you interested in the entertainment industry.
Yeah. So I am from the Bay Area, born and raised, and I started my journey in entertainment industry through musical theater. I was in my first musical when I was 6 years old, so I started very young, and I grew up doing all kinds of, like community theater and stuff in my hometown. And my dad is a musician. He's been in the same band since he was in high school. And so they jam out, every now and then still and play some gigs. And
Yeah, they rock. They rock.
yeah, they rock. They're called LAD.
Nice.
But, I had like a built-in music teacher, which was, like the greatest gift that I ever could have been given. So I started playing instruments and singing and writing songs when I was really young as well.
That's awesome. I love that. And Tim, you are just the global trotter looking around at your resume of where you're from. Talk a little bit about your background and what got you into the business.
Yeah, sure. It's a funny story. Yeah, I mean, I grew up all over the world. I was born in South Africa, in Johannesburg, and lived in England, lived in the Midwest, lived in Germany, and then lived in Switzerland, and then finally moved to LA for high school. So really kind of all over the place. But the way I got into theater at first was my older sister really wanted to go to this theater camp called Stage Door Manor in upstate New York. And they didn't have enough guys for that summer, but they had too many girls. And so I think they like reached out to my parents and said, hey, if you bring your brother, and I was 11 at the time, and they were like, if you bring your brother, we'll let your sister come. And my sister was obsessed with theater. She was Annie at our school in Switzerland. And I had no interest. I really didn't know anything about it. I was like, oh, I have to go to, up like the Catskills for 3 weeks. I don't know about that. And then, that was my first kind of introduction to it, and I never looked back. I've been hooked ever since.
Nice. I like that. And Nicolette, talk about, we're talking actress, we're talking producer, we're talking composer. Which of those came first? Does anything come easier to you, or what's your preference there? That's a wild.
Yeah. I started with songwriting. That was always my first love. And then I started dabbling in production a little bit in college, but I didn't really dive in until COVID. With quarantine, there's just all this extra time.
Right.
And so I did an Ableton deep dive and completely fell in love with music production. And that's how I got started there. And then in terms of film production, this is the first feature film that I've produced, but I produced a bunch of shows and stuff in college that I feel prepared me a bit.
That's great. And then Tim, acting, of course, on your resume, producing now, but I don't see any musical background there. Tell me where this came from. Were you musical from the start, or how did this come about, and what was it like kind of exercising this muscle for you?
Yeah, I've always kind of been on the cusp. I love singing, but I'm not much of a dancer. So, but Nico and I actually did. We actually did a musical right out of college together, which is kind of where our collaboration really started. Was we did the last 5 years together at what was it? Where was it? Pacific Theater.
Pacific Resident Theater.
Yeah, Pacific Resident Theater in Venice Beach.
Wow.
So I've always kind of dabbled a little bit for sure. But in terms of straight up music and songwriting, my parents had a very strict rule of no video games or anything like that. But I had a guitar and a piano. So when I was bored and everybody else was playing video games, I was really jealous. But I literally just when I was bored, I would play guitar and piano. And now I'm really grateful for them, actually. I really am for that. So I've been playing since high school, and yeah, same thing. Never looked back. It's a huge part
We're going
of
to
my
talk
life.
about the chemistry in a second. I didn't know you guys had worked previously together. The last 5 years, one of my good friends, Michael Mott, is best friends with Jeremy Jordan, of course. And so it's like I'm a huge fan of that film and the Broadway show, the whole 9 yards. So that's such a cool thing that you guys did together. Talk about how this project came to be. Who approached who first, or how did this start, Nicolette?
Yeah, so I met the director and writer, Patrick Meany, right before COVID. I auditioned for a short film that he was doing, and he cast me in the short film, and I produced a song for the film. And this was kind of back when we were like, oh, COVID will be 3 weeks, and then we'll just shoot the film and all is good to go. But obviously that didn't happen. But we stayed in touch, even though the short film didn't end up, amounting to production. But Patrick basically had this idea for a film after we had collaborated on this song for the short film. He was like, he'd always wanted to make a music film, and now he had a friend who wanted to also make a music film who does music. And so we started collaborating, and we had basically one meeting where we talked about the concept of two musicians going to a cabin together and writing an album. And he is really inspired by the Star is Born press tour with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga, and how they seemed so in love, but are they, And then of course Fleetwood Mac is a great example of a band with some tension, some romantic tension that's reflected in the music. And so yeah, it all kind of stemmed from that idea of this are they together? Are they not together? And like what that looks like in a band dynamic. And he wrote a draft of the script. I read that draft immediately. The role of James, I was like, I have the perfect person to play this. And Tim and I obviously have been friends for a very long time. And actually, Tim and I first met at college at UCLA because we were assigned to write a song together. So like,
yeah, literally on our first day of school, like first day of classes. Yeah,
That's
in theater
amazing.
school.
yeah, so everything felt very fated. So Tim at the time was living in Switzerland. And so I called him one night at, I think it was probably 3 a.m. his time, accidentally.
Yeah.
And I was like, Tim, like, we have this like really cool idea. Would you be down? And I sent him one song that I had written already for the film and the script. And Tim was like, I'm down. And he moved back to LA to work on making all the music with me and producing the film.
That's amazing. As one does, living in Switzerland part-time, Tim. I like that. And talk to me, what drew you to the role of James? I mean, she talked to you about the song, and obviously you guys had that connection. What drew you to the role, though, of actually playing James? What did you think you can bring to the character, and what were you excited about it?
Yeah, I mean, it was, obviously it was, the height of COVID, so it was a really interesting time. And I had really kind of moved back home to Switzerland and kind of where my parents live, and I'd kind of, pretty much called it quits, because it'd been a year of auditioning. And yeah, we'd done some professional theater together, but a lot of, auditioning for, one-line co-stars and that kind of thing. And, you're wondering, oh, is this what I signed up for? And, maybe I should do something else. But I remember that Nico sent me this song after she called me in like 3, 4 in the morning. I was just like, what are you talking about? Like a movie? Like, I don't understand. Like, once I woke up the next day and listened to the song and read the first draft of the script that Patrick had written as well, it was definitely like a light bulb went off, because I think 2 things really drew me to it. One was, getting to be such like an integral part of the creative process was something that I was really looking for, because as an actor, you normally, especially in the beginning of your career, you're very much like a pawn in other people's game, or, like a very small cog in a much larger machine. And you don't have a lot of say or agency on what's going on. But this was a real opportunity to build something and shape something together. And the other thing was, it just was one of those things that leapt off the page. It was one of those, it wasn't going to be a major stretch to play James. It was just like, first couple lines, it was really like, oh, I know this person, I know this guy, and I know how to, I know that I feel how he feels, and I can get into his shoes really, really easily. So yeah, those are the main things. It was an easy decision, honestly. And I'm really happy I came back, because it kind of kickstarted the rest of my career too, So
Oh,
it
that's
was,
great.
I owe Nico a lot for that, definitely.
Nice. And Nicolette, tell me here, now that you've worked with him in song, you've worked with Patrick in song a bit now, and now you're working and you're doing half the lifting, creating the songs and everything. What was he able to provide you as a director, and what were you really excited to get back from him and share with him as far as directing? What did that mean to you?
Well, Patrick's an amazing director and collaborator. There's literally no one harder working than Patrick Meany. Devil works hard, but Patrick Meany works hard, I always say. So he's just so on top of things, and it kind of keeps me and everyone that he works with in check. And the other cool thing about working with him is he's so open to collaboration. So, he had a draft of the script, and then we started making the music, but then the script started to change as like the songs were being written, and like then Tim and I wanted to add, some more like personalized stuff about like who we are and like about our process making the music. So the script and the song started to inform each other in a really cool way. Yeah.
I love that. And Tim, talking about these songs you guys created, I think 6 or 7 original for here. Was one harder to write than the other? Did one inform, like Nicolette was saying, or it kind of infused a little bit of yourselves in each of these as well? Did one of those songs really resonate with you? And which did you find was maybe the easiest or the hardest to write?
Yeah, it was interesting. I always think of that thing that that because before this, I'd never really, written and performed anything in public for anyone, basically. So for me, Nico had done it a bunch, but for me, it was, especially scary. But I remember this thing that Sting said, that I saw in some video about, write what you know. And so I was like, okay, we can write what we know. We've been making music for a long time and we've been friends for a long time. So there's something to start with. But I would say we really struggled to write at all for the first couple of weeks because we had a very different idea of what we wanted to do and our tastes are very different. And so the way I would describe it is that it was like a bunch of weeks of nothing and kind of pretty frustrating, banging our heads against the wall to suddenly the floodgates opened. The first song that came was Follow You. And it was I Follow You. And once that kind of clicked and we're like, oh, this is it. This is what it sounds like. This is where we meet in the middle. And this is great. Every song after that came pretty quickly. So that was it was like the floodgates came down after many weeks of hard work and arguing, for sure.
I bet. And Nicolette, tell me, I tease it in the opening that this is a bit of a time hop in here as well. What's it like regressing back to high school? How was that to prepare for? And what were shooting those scenes like?
High school, it's one of those things that just really imprints on you. I feel like I can harken back very easily. Feelings of insecurity and shyness.
Good and bad, right? Remember the best and the worst of it.
Yeah.
What about for you, Tim? Was there any challenges in going back? I mean, you kind of look this. I mean, you're so tall and lanky and everything. You kind of look like you're the same age. Probably you've looked this way for the last 10 years or so.
No, you'd be surprised. I think I was a lot skinnier, and if it's even possible, I was skinnier. I think people would joke that I'd have to put like bricks in my backpack because if not, I would float away whenever the air conditioning would come through in high school. That's how skinny I was. No, I think for me, it was I felt like I was playing a more fictional version of. I was definitely not that cool in high school, or that confident, or that funny, or charming. That was the part of where I was like, oh, I get to play a character. That was not really.
Right.
It was not really based on my own high school experience.
I kind of doubt that, though. I think Tim was secretly kind of cool in high school.
I gotcha. Just between you and me and the fence post. I like that, Nicolette. Were there any other improvised moments, Nicolette, that kind of made it to the final cut, or anything you guys had a little fun playing with?
I'd say that whole collage. During the I Follow You sequence, the montage. Yeah, the montage is a better word for it. The last day of shooting, we only shot the movie in 11 days, and 10 days with sound. And then the 11th day was the very final day of shooting, and we had no sound. It was basically just the four people who started it, which was the two of us, Patrick, and our cameraman, Jordan. And one or two extra set people would come in and help with a set piece or two, but we basically spent the day driving around LA just looking for stuff to do. And that was so that's we went to the beach and there was that beautiful sunset and we're hanging out in the back of the car, writing music together and stuff. I think that's the last shot we ever got, was the one where I'm playing guitar and she's kind of leaned up against me, writing in the journal.
Oh, nice.
And most of that is actually pretty improvised, and it was the perfect way to say kind of goodbye to the shooting of the project. Was that day. It was, oh my God, it was one of the best days I've ever had on set.
That's fantastic. And Nicolette, talk to me, any funny behind the scenes moment or any enjoyment? You had some gorgeous sets in this piece, up in the cabins and everything. What was your favorite behind the scenes and the favorite settings to shoot with?
Oh man. I mean, I feel like shooting at the cabin was really cool. It's actually the first thing that we shot was the cabin. And so we were driving to Topanga every day because that's where the cabin was. And it just the excitement of beginning the shoot was so intoxicating, and being in a place that felt really far away from it all. And there was no cell service or anything. So everybody was really there and in it and in the moment. And that was really beautiful. And another day that was really fun was, so actually where we shot 3 of the performance shots. So the final song, The Cliff, those performance shots, my solo performance at that bar where I cry. And I Follow You with that orange curtain. That was all shot in the same location, which is the Pacific Resident Theater where we did the last 5 years.
On the same stage.
on the same stage, and it was just set, decked, and shot differently, so you can't tell. But that day was awesome because we were just, performing all the songs, and like it was so cool to be back in this theater that like is so meaningful to me and Tim, because that's where we did that show, and to like make it all work in this way on such a small budget, and like it just, that to me is like such huge movie magic.
Old home week. I love that.
Mhm.
And talk about that producer hat for a second, Tim. What's it like when you kind of now you're not only co-starring in a film, you're writing songs for it, but you also have to think about budget and releasing and everything like that. Was that kind of a fun muscle to stretch for you, or talk about that?
Yeah, I also have a bit of a background in business too. So, it's definitely stressful because, normally on the business side of things, you're just kind of, marketing and selling a product. But in this case, the product is something that is so personal and so close to your heart because of all these little details. They all start to add up, like that last day of shooting, or, shooting in the old theater where we used to perform, right out of school and stuff. I mean, so I'd say the challenge is really that you're so attached to the product that, doing the production end of, pitching it and selling it can be really, really difficult, honestly, because you feel so attached to it, and it's your baby, and you really don't want to let it go,
Right.
So I found that to be pretty challenging, but also rewarding in the end. Have that, have a couple, successful transactions and get to meet and work with amazing new people, like, with we signed a publishing deal with AMR Songs and Tamara Conniff, who used to be the editor-in-chief at Billboard, and amazing stuff like that. I mean, it was definitely incredibly challenging, but also super fulfilling to see all of the hard work pay off and to play a role in getting it out into the world, as opposed to just kind of signing off on it and being like, great, I'll see it when it comes out, like you normally do.
Right. Has happened so much. And Nicolette, we got to talk about these songs. I mean, you're so good at blending and the harmonies and everything. That was very exciting to see. And I just loved all of the songs. What do you hope the audiences kind of take away from both performance aspect and a producing aspect?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that the thing that's so beautiful about this film is that you have the music and you have the songs, and the music kind of exist on their own too. And we released the soundtrack kind of as like the EP that the Brink of made in the film. So Tim and I actually produced a lot of the songs in a different way than they are in the movie, because a lot of the songs in the movie were performed live. So like we fully produced those songs out, and now they're on this album. And yeah, I think it just really adds to the lore of the band and like to the full scope of the world of the film. And there's also there was a deleted song from the film, which was actually the very first song written for the film, the song that I wrote that I sent Tim. Mm-hmm. Before he had signed on to the project. And that song was Lena's solo song. It didn't really make sense in the context of the film. And
Gotcha.
So we ended up cutting it in the edit, but that song now exists on the album. And so, yeah, it's really cool to, it's like having two full works of art. We have an album and we have a movie. It's really crazy. Yeah.
I love it. Now, have you ever guys thought about now taking this act and doing it in a couple clubs? You guys ever want to perform together and do the music side, or is it all back to acting now?
Yeah, I mean, we did perform live a few times. We did a show in New York. We've done a show in LA, and we actually created this concept that's really cool, where we have like a lot of visuals from the film projected while we perform, and then a little clip of the scene between each song, so you're kind of seeing it in context. And that was a really cool performance. And so I could see us doing that again for sure. Yeah.
I love that. I love how you kind of wait till the end for the payoff, because there's a whole will they or won't they aspect to it. So you don't really know what's going on. And it's just a great way to wrap up the movie. So well done on both of you. I mean, great job on all three hats there. That's absolutely amazing. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. Let's talk a little bit about the future. I mean, Nicolette, you got Curse of the Dragon King just came out a couple months ago. Do you have anything coming up in the works or anything you're working on right now you can talk about? I know actors are so secret and confidential in these things.
Yeah. Well, I actually am working on a new music project right now. We are going to be releasing our first single next month. And we're playing our first show June 1st at the Echo. So if you're in LA, and it's a music duo with my best friend and roommate, Sarah Silva. And it's definitely a little bit different direction than the Brink of. It's electronic girl duo. So
Nice.
but it's been really fun. I've been working on it for the past year, and I'm so stoked to start releasing all of the music.
Congratulations. You're going to have to come back with future projects. I love that. And Tim,
Yeah.
you had a great movie come out a couple years ago, Greatest Beer Run Ever, greatest title. Of course, Zac Efron and Russell Crowe, a little more serious than you think going into it after the first couple of minutes, but it was actually a pretty damn good movie, and was actually a good cause to help kind of recognize someone in the end as well. What do you see in your future coming up?
Yeah, I mean, getting to do that was so great, and also that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't come back to LA, and I came back to LA for this film. So again, I'm super grateful to Patrick and especially Nico for that. Yeah, coming up next, I'm still auditioning and stuff, but I feel like I kind of got dragged back in for this project, which was a great thing. But yeah, I'm actually more based in Europe now, so I audition out of London still for plays and kind of international films and stuff. So we'll see what happens, but kind of back to my old life now, basically.
There you go. Well, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I appreciate it. The film is called The Brink of, and it stars my great guest today, Nicolette Norgaard and Tim Hoffman. Guys, congratulations on all the success. I think it's going to be amazing. By the time this interview comes out, it might have just been released. Remind everyone where they can find the film, Nicolette.
You can watch it anywhere that you buy or rent movies. So Amazon Prime, Vudu, Google Play, YouTube, etc.
Apple, it's on Apple too.
Apple TV, yeah.
Very good. And I think the film has a Instagram handle we'll put up here in the credits. What if they want to follow you guys' career a little more? Can they find you on Instagram or anything?
Yeah, definitely. I'm at myfriendnico_.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh God, what is mine? It's like at Tim_Hoffman, but I think the A is a V. Just don't even worry about it. I think that's left over from high school, actually. So this disproves what you said before, Nico, about me maybe being cool. There is clear evidence that wasn't the case.
There you go. Oh my gosh. All right, guys, stay on the line. Guys, we're always excited to have fantastic actors like Nicolette and Tim here. We appreciate you tuning in every week to the Left of Str8 Show. We'll be back next time with another great interview. Look for 5 questions with Nico and Tim coming up next week. We'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Left of Str8 Show. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast distributor, and please give us a 5-star rating so more listeners can find us. You can follow us on social media, and be sure to check out our website for contests and other news and information. See you next week.